Thomas here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. I don't know if you have seen it or not, but the Fallout TV series trailers have been showing up all over my feed and I'm getting super excited. I have made a few Fallout builds in the past. There's even a playlist that you can go and watch all of the different things that I've built, from full cosplays to weapons to all kinds of things within the world. And I thought it would be fun, since it is coming up soon, the release of this TV series, to make something from Fallout. As I was looking for ideas, there's tons and tons of things that you can go into that world and build. And something that I really haven't seen anywhere, I mean, not to say that it hasn't been done, but the vault door. It is the thing that crashes down and closes our vault dwellers in and safely secures them from the radiation. And I thought I'd make a cool little wall hang, some decoration, maybe even make it into a Much Props sign. But yeah, without further ado, today we are building a vault door from Fallout. So I'm just gonna put on some, some jams. Let's get to building. So, in the world of Fallout, there are, as far as I could see from my research, a total of 122 vaults spread across the US-ish. Each of these vaults costs several $100 billion to construct, and only 17 of them worked as advertised. The rest were used by the Enclave to collect data for experimentations on controlled human populations. Less than 0.1% of the entire population was saved within the vault. So, I thought it would be fun to make up my own lore for this Much Props vault. I'll sprinkle it in with the clips and also give you some facts about the other experiments going on in the other vaults. My template for the build is free and in the description below the video. The base layer was cut out of 24mm EVA foam. The second layer I cut out of some 10mm EVA foam. The 1, 2, 3 blocks aren't 100% necessary, but it does make it easier for tracing large patterns to hold it down, and a silver Sharpie makes it a lot easier on black foam to see. As for the lore of Vault Much Props, it was designed similar to most other vaults with one exception. It only contained 2 people. The large facility had all of the amenities that the other vaults had for underground living, and an extensive video library for every show, movie, and how-to video created before the Great War. The green highlighted area is for that 10mm layer that I just cut. It signifies that the edges should be cut at an outward 45-degree angle. The rest of the spokes get cut straight up and down all the way around. Back in the vault Much Props. This vault, along with its extensive video library, an entire craft store of every possible material one could ever want, was stacked to the brims with foam, leather, glue, paints, and anything else that a maker could desire. The Enclave had special plans for these 2 vault dwellers of Much Props. To tack together such a large area with contact cement, I put down the parchment paper in between them. Once the glue had set up, I slowly lined up the edges to each other and pushed firmly down. Then, sections at a time, I tacked the rest together. Back in the crafting vault, the rules were fairly simple for the two occupants. Each month, the two makers had to make a costume. It could be from a popular movie, a comic, or a number of other inspirations. They were given a general size to make it, but other than that, the rest was up to them. And at the end of the month, the costume was put into a chute that would be taken to the surface by the Enclave. These overlays are the top layer of the gear teeth to give the door its final dimension. I used 6mm foam and did my best to keep them evenly spaced with each other and the edges. Back in the vault, the couple spent their mornings watching movies and drawing inspiration from a vast video library to then spend the rest of their day after lunch working on costumes for that month. Their task went on month after month, year after year, for the better part of a decade with little change. The costume would get completed and mysteriously taken at the end of each month up the chute, never to be seen again. I don't exactly know what these yellow bits are on the door, but they're going to add some nice details to break up the symmetry. I cut and sanded them out of various thicknesses of EVA foam and glued them into place. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area while sanding foam. You don't want to breathe in the fumes and turn into a ghoul, or maybe you do. In Vault Much Props, the monthly costume for this month had been removed, but once the chute opened back up, there was a handwritten note along with some images, a little dossier. The note stated that this month the Enclave wanted an exact replica of the costume seen in the picture. An interesting commission to say the least, but the two makers began pulling materials and their monthly construction of their cosplay. For all the bolts, screws, and other details, I thought it was about time to bust out some castings in resin. Most of the time when I'm casting something, I pour some of the extra bits into a mold that I have of various screws, bolts, and other doodads. I also have a couple that my friend PR Props has given me over the past couple years of buying some of his casts. I never know what it is going to be for or used for in the end, but this is kind of the perfect build. You could also build the stuff out of foam or even attach the real thing if you wanted to. I super glue them into place and work my way around the entire prop. There is a hose that connects the top trapezoid detail to the cylinder down at the bottom. I'm using some 10mm EVA dowels and cut them to fit into place as I go around the spokes, super gluing them into place. Our two crafters deep below the wasteland have crafted a near perfect replica of their commission. Luckily, the years of costume building have made the process easy for the two. Only taking 2 weeks to knock out a full costume, now they spend their spare time making other random things from the videos that they watch in their free time. An entire room in their shelter is filled with their creations to stare at. I wanted to add some texture and damage to the outside of my vault door. You can heat up foam and push stuff into it like foil. You can hit the surface with pliers or other random objects, carve into it with a rotary tool, or even blowtorch it. After I was done, I covered the resin bit in Mod Podge and stippled on a texture. In Vault Much Props, the two makers' monthly costumes were now being specifically dictated by the Enclave, each with pictures of what they wanted replicated. The requests started to come in every 2 weeks now instead of each month, and this kept the makers busier than ever. They kept the images of all their costume requests and put them in a binder to document these commissions. Two coats of Plasti-Dip. Then I hit the surface with a misting of silver, brown, and black spray paint. I masked off big areas with masking tape and used the toothpaste for small areas where I wanted paint chipping or hard to reach curves or recesses. Then I spray painted a majority of the door blue with the details in the yellow. Our vault dwellers got in a request for what they recognized to be the Silver Shroud, a hero popularized by Galaxy News Radio. The makers have been working at a feverish pace for months now and were tired of the Enclave demanding that they build these costumes so quickly, so they grabbed their costume binder of the previous builds, and this time when putting the costume into the chute, jumped in with it geared to the nines. They were ready to get to the bottom of this influx in demands. As the platform was raised in the chute, the two crafters were dressed in full battle gear, ready to pounce on whatever flung open the doors. Once the paint is dry, I removed the tape and then gave the toothpaste a good brushing off with a toothbrush. Blinded by the lights, our two creative costume makers swung at the Enclave armored soldier that met them. Taken by surprise, he was easily subdued, and after a brief interrogation, began to give up all the information the crafters asked. He informed the two Vault Much Props inhabitants about the true purpose of their vault tasks. I quickly did some washes over the door with watered down acrylic. My brown was almost completely out, so I just scooped in water, put the lid back on, sloshed it around, and then dumped it out. After covering all the recesses, I dabbed off the high point with a paper towel. Our vault dwellers now knew the truth about what the Enclave's experiment of Vault Much Props was. These costumes that they were making month after month, year after year, were being used by the Enclave to plant spies in the various settlements around the wasteland. Some of the most recent costumes were actually leading figures in these settlements that the Enclave had control of. They would murder the leaders and replace them with a soldier at the ready to do the Enclave's bidding. Instead of adding the rust effects that I usually add to builds like this, I thought it would be nice to revisit the spice method. Go to your kitchen, pick out a rust-colored spice, anything orange, red, yellow, or brown, and sprinkle it on the wet paint or glue. This also adds a texture and powderiness quality to mimic that of rust even more. Now armed with the knowledge of what they've done, they put their costume into a backpack, steal the Enclave's armor, and head towards the settlement that the Silver Shroud is supposed to go to. After a lengthy, dangerous journey, they reach the town of Goodneighbor. As they gain entrance, they realize that several of the citizens in this town are in their binder. To lock everything into place, I hit the entire surface with some of the spray-on Mod Podge. I went with a matte finish and a light sprinkle over the top with more of the paprika and curry spices. Our vault dwellers, armed with their binder, now are on a vigilante journey to expose the Enclave moles and reunite the wasteland one costume at a time. Hopefully you enjoyed this story, and a big thanks to my older brother Clayton for suggesting that I add a lore to this vault props door. And we are finished. Here is the end result. I love the way this thing turned out. It is grungy, it is grimy, and it smells like a nice curry. It is very much a sturdy thing because I use that thick foam. Now, you could go in and intricately figure out all these angles and template it out to be hollow, but I thought it was just easier if I had that thickness to already do it. You could also layer up 10mm foam to get to that thickness level if you wanted to, but yeah. Maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to pull something from your favorite video game of all times and put it into the real world and just stare at it and noogle at it forever because it's awesome and you repeatedly play the same game over and over and over. I mean, yeah. Maybe you'll get some... Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I did put a little hole in the back so I can hang it up, but don't lie to me and tell me this couldn't make it for an awesome shield. Hit somebody with that. Yeah. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.